there were a lot more positives. I wasn't sure what this. I don't understand like when they're saying like radicals,
Mm,
like I'm struggling with like the meaning. Like I know what it means, but I don't know if I can
right.
articulate what it means, and so obviously
Interesting.
I'm struggling with that.
I think,
Uh,
can I actually speak to that?
yeah, please.
Because radical has to do with a degree. So, like, when we talk about like politics or something, right? We have like the right and then the radical right, or the left and the radical left. And I think it has to do with like a continuum. And I saw last week you sign like
Oh,
radical, and then the source text said something along the lines of like, um I forget what the context was, but it was like this particular thing. It wasn't like a radical thing. We weren't being very radical because we were trying to get more viewership or something. And you went like, it was more like, or something like that. And I think that that was what it means.
okay, good. Thank you for that. Um, okay. Um, moving from last week now into this week, some things I am not going to take notes, and good. Like,
Mm,
let's just see what sticks out to me in the end.
okay. I
If
like that.
anything.
That's more natural too.
And I will keep my eyes on the screen, which I think will be better for the teaming dynamic. We are announcing open process models, so it will be what it will be. You will be Naomi. I will be Sadie. So we're switching things up. Oh, let's change our names.
Done.
I don't even think you can see them on the production end, but I don't care.
I don't think so either. Which might be confusing to people who don't have magnifying glasses, actually, come to think of it.
I don't know how big SADIE their screens are. On their phone,
Mm,
you can't see it, but maybe on the computer you can.
hopefully.
It's too quiet in the other room. Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready if you are.
Okay, so
Can I listen to the first like 30 seconds just to see who talks first? I really cannot get their voices. Maybe it'll be easier for me now because, yeah, I think it'll just be easier now. But
let me just tell you, this show is number 3. Body feelings are about more than our bodies.
Okay.
I mean, do you want to go in order? Do you want me to do another? I've just been going in order.
Yeah, let's do.
That's okay.
I think. Oh, let's please go in order for my. That would be weird for me if we didn't go in order.
Okay. This one is number 3. Body feelings are about more than our bodies. Oops. How we feel about our bodies is a whole lot more complicated than advice like just love your body makes it seem. In this episode, Sadie and Naomi dig into how to remove binary thinking from body feelings,
Hmm.
the nuances of common entry points into health and our relationships to our bodies, the problem with mainstream body positivity, the societal norms and structures that influence our feelings about our bodies, and the way in which our feelings about our bodies can impact our whole lives. Plus, some weird metaphors from Naomi to illustrate some of these points.
I'm here for
And
it.
okay, great. All right, so let's
Oh wait,
listen
I
to.
should.
Make sure you can hear it too, because I changed on my system. Well, you
Hi,
earned your
friend.
keep today.
Welcome to Satisfaction
Oh,
Factor, the
Oh
podcast.
no, not again.
Show the aftercast
Aftercast.
briefing.
Hey, friend, how do you feel?
I feel bad. I
Why?
feel like you did 90% of the work. I feel like the one time it was me, my mom called and I was like, did it just take off the screen? Did we just lose our recording? And I was like, really? I only had to say like 4 things. And then I started, was like, do I always have to be that high stakes like we always talked about? Um,
That's okay because you did 90% of the work in the first two, so it's fine.
hmm,
Also, I feel like I'm living my best life right now. So,
hmm.
I
I
really
think
enjoyed that.
oh my goodness. I really wanted to say that I think like just like your body carriage was so relaxed and cool and
I
calm.
felt it. I'm not cool at
Yeah.
all. I'm drenched
Oh,
in sweat. I know what
I
you
mean
mean.
cool.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
I'm kidding. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's so hot in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? You were brilliant. Oh, that explains it. My computer is like giving me a heat wave warning right now. That explains
Oh.
why I'm so hot. Um, so you're brilliant. The thought of, I don't know how you felt about taking on Sadie,
Mm.
but me switching to Naomi, I just feel such a better connection with her.
Mm.
I don't know, how do you
I
feel?
No, I was like panicking because yeah, I thought and there were some things that I thought you just nailed for sure. And there were some things that I was like, I don't understand this.
Well, honestly,
I
same. Some of the stuff I was like,
there was like two parts where I felt like well, first I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But I
bring
thought
it.
I saw you feel uncomfortable signing largeness and
I didn't know how to do it in an appropriate way, and I I didn't want it to be, because I feel like, I mean, that is the sign for large, right?
Mhm.
Large. And I was like, my brain was going, how did Lori sign it? Because I feel like it was so neutral how you signed it. And I remember you going like this with bodies, but I felt like that was more of like a verb, when
Mm.
people were like losing weight. So I had like this panicky internal monologue of like, what's it? Because that is the sign. It's the sign. I'm not going to sign fat, but like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, maybe because I know this a little bit more, but there isn't a fear of the word fat, right?
Hmm.
We don't want to show any like fat phobia. Not
Right.
saying that you have fat phobia, but like that kind of like, oh, I don't want to say it or it like,
Hmm.
you know, kind of plays into that, especially with deaf language. It's a visual language and
Hmm.
it's not offensive, you know. A lot of times
Well,
people say
so
it's
that's the
direct,
question
but
I
it's not
have,
a yeah.
because I wasn't afraid to sign large. I just, in my mind, the record went screech, and I
Mhm.
was like, is that does that sign in and of itself have a negative connotation? And if so, I don't
No.
want to use it.
I personally don't think it does. I think that if you are reacting from it, like, I mean,
Hmm.
like, this is not always the
That's
right,
different.
that is different. But we aren't going to do that stuff. But the rest
Right.
of the stuff, like, oh, like, that's a
Right.
descriptive,
Yeah, for sure.
right? So I don't feel uncomfortable using it. And I think maybe you shouldn't feel uncomfortable using it
Good. Okay, no,
because,
that gives me permission, because
mm,
I don't feel uncomfortable in English saying the word.
right,
Um, it's just I wanted to make sure that I was preserving the integrity and the intent of this is a neutral word.
right.
And in my mind, like you said, like I wouldn't sign this for something that in English was neutral. And I got worried for a second that this was not neutral in
No.
ASL.
I think that's our own biases coming
I'm
up
sure it
to
is.
play and how we understand that. And I'm sure that, but that's how, like, if somebody says like skinny fat or I'm larger fat,
Hmm.
that in itself is triggering for some people. Just hearing the word fat is upsetting for some people, but
Hmm.
that's what they're trying to change the narrative on, right?
Right.
Um,
Which is awesome.
and right, totally awesome. There were some parts too that I saw stemming from the use of the body size where they talked about like all bodies
Hmm.
and didn't see that in the target text like even like all body size riding bikes and the only reason why I think that's important because it came up a few times and each time I didn't see it in the source text and why
The
it's
target.
important the target thanks whoa it
Hmm.
is the why it's important is because that's where I think this work leads. Like if you can respect your body, you can respect everybody, right? And
Right.
it's like Black Lives Matter and ableism and autism and racism and all of those start with accepting yourself and
Right.
like accepting all bodies, right? You got to respect your body and then you learn how to respect all bodies. And so I, for one, was like, oh, I hope I see it here. Okay. Oh, I hope I
Hmm.
see it here because but it's because of my own process and filters, and I know it's going to be important later. That's all.
Right. No, I appreciate that comment so much. Thank you. I'm glad that you brought that up. Again, I wish I could be the kind of person that could take notes, but I can't because I made a mental note of that. And I think that yeah, for sure. Like I felt it happening and it wasn't an intentional omission. It was a coming off the back of finger spelling Instagram handles that I was like, I don't know why I was freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to make sure I'm spelling this like clearly and slowly so that people who want to find it later can find it. And it's like,
We'll add
it's
it
going to
to
be
our
in the
show notes.
notes. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, no, the hearing person isn't going to sit there and remember something about girls, fat girls riding bikes, something. I'll look at the show notes, right? So, like, that's functional equivalence. But I don't know why I was fixated on the spelling. And then because I was fixated on that, I literally like missed the context. I knew it was like I was thinking about the hiking. And it's weird. I think it's because in the source text, I don't think it was intentional, but she was euphemistic about like people of all sizes hiking. Like I wish she had said that, but I can't remember what she said, but the way she said it, it took her a while to get to, oh, it's quote fat people hiking. And that's we're celebrating that. And like I was confused where she was going. I could not predict. I was like, okay, what are we going to be doing here? And then by the time we got there, I was like, I should have waited and I could have done that so much more clearly. And I was like spiraling. And then I was thinking about that. And then she's talking about the fat girls on bikes or whatever the Instagram handle is. And I was just so down the tunnel at that point. It was like, yeah, it just all spiraled. It was a processing thing. It wasn't like an intentional omission because I was like uncomfortable with the concept.
Mhm.
It was definitely a processing rabbit hole that I was just like, ah, having a breakdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was just linking the two because they were kind of together, and I saw one thing was uncomfortable, and then I was like, well,
Yeah, that makes
maybe,
total
yeah.
sense. And of course, I'm not saying that like, oh, that's not it. Like, I'm sure disconscious bias, right? Of course, you don't know
Mhm.
what you don't know. But it wasn't like, so like the when I maybe did that with signing large, that was like a very conscious in the forefront of my like, oh my gosh, like how am I going to put this out? And the other thing was really just like an oversight.
Mm. Yeah. I struggled in my own where often I didn't know what Sadie's goal was.
Hmm.
And if you watch it back towards the end, every single time I like stop myself from laughing because it
Mm.
felt like at some point I felt like my goal was to give you breaks and to kick it back to you.
Honestly, I appreciate that.
And
I'm
so
not
it was
gonna
like,
lie.
because I was like, there, you know what I mean? And then, like, if you watch it, there's like every part I do stops, like, I end it with that.
I noticed
And
that,
like,
and she was like, I was like, oh no, she
and then
caught
I'm
the
like,
that
all right,
disease from
I'm on the
me.
that thing. And then I changed it to,
Yeah. But it was
I
so
was like,
funking. I
oh my
kept
God.
seeing that and I was like,
What
you
is
know what I
going
was
on?
like? I was like, haven't signed that once. You're making it up
Right.
for the both of us.
The accent stealing. So like you'll see the whole first part. I'm like that because I'm just trying to wrap it up and give it back. I
Yeah, you're trying
no
to.
idea what the goal is. I was thinking of like the overall goal, right? Like, but her specific speech act goal in that moment, I had no idea what it
I
was.
wonder
And then at the end, I'm like,
I wonder if that's why I struggled with Sadie as well. Because I feel like, sorry, I'm parched.
hmm,
Mm. I don't know if this dynamic is intentional because again, maybe you could answer this because you know Naomi personally, but I feel like Naomi is like the driving factor in the podcast and Sadie's like the support, you know? So you're right. I'm wondering if maybe that's another reason that I struggled with Sadie because I felt so connected with Naomi and I was like, I got this girl's number. I
oh
know
yeah,
where she's going. I know
totally.
where she's coming from. I know how the story is going to end. I understand why she's telling the story. And I didn't feel that with Sadie when I was
Hmm.
interpreting Sadie.
I feel like yes,
And
yes,
that's not
yes.
a knock. I'm just putting it out there. That's not like a
No, no,
negative
no,
on
no.
them. It's just people have different speaking
Hmm.
styles, you know?
I feel like I don't. I've listened to like random bits of their show here and there, and not this one yet. This was the first time I heard it, but I've heard, and it's equally balanced, or right, like or more
Okay.
like the first one where it's back
Hmm.
and forth. The second one I thought was more even too. So maybe because this one was more about an intuitive eating principle, and Naomi specifically being an intuitive eating coach, it makes more sense for her
Mm,
to lead it. But
it's a
yes,
good
she's
point.
definitely like 65 45, or
Sure, if those numbers
60.
were
No, no,
no,
no, they don't. 60
no, they
40,
really
65
don't.
35,
They
right?
really
So I mean
don't.
six, but I didn't want to give her 35 because I think Sadie has more,
Yeah,
in the overall.
those numbers feel good in my butt, in my gut.
Yeah, 60 60 40, I say. um but yeah, okay, what else about the
I don't know. I just
we have to practice the opening. That's one thing. I mean, and then every time it sets me off on this, like, "Well, here we go again. It's gonna be a big waste of time."
no.
um,
Um, I really enjoyed um just your engagement, like during the
oh,
like the
great.
not taking notes. I wonder also if that helped
Hmm,
me just be more present, you know?
yeah, I hope so. Um, I think we both were very patient, and we took our time and we
We tried to
waited.
be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, so that is something I was thinking about, the IMI, right? The integrated model of interpreting, and just how tonight I felt it and
Mm,
felt how successful it is. Because there were times when, um, so let's see, Sadie was talking, right? And you were interpreting, and then you got there, and then you're still interpreting, and Naomi starts talking, and Naomi's been talking for like 30, 40 seconds, and you're still interpreting what Sadie said, and it did not
mm,
impact my ability to process the message. As a matter of fact, I think that it was a benefit because I was able to retain. I could, people would say that in our profession, maybe 30, 40 seconds is a massive process time or a massive lag time, whatever label you want to put on it. But honestly, it's a beautiful thing to be able to be that far away. And I'm not like, yay, me.
mm.
I just mean anyone. It's a beautiful thing to be able to be that far away and everybody benefits. And I thought that I felt like you did that often, like also the other way around too, where I was interpreting and I was bleeding into you for quite some time, and you were ready. Your hands went up and you got it, you know?
I remember you saying that last time, and how you I was like, I'm going to take my space next time. Last time, and I'm going to wait. And you had mentioned that you appreciated it because it forced you to start building an R, right?
Absolutely. And I felt that
Um,
again today, like even more so.
Even just having that conversation was beneficial because when I felt like, oh, I was pushing that 30-40 second mark into your um, section now, I would start to get all dysregulated and like want to hurry
Interesting.
up. So I'd have to like quiet the members on my
Mm.
community and like replay the tape of you saying, no, I appreciate this because I get to, think about
It
what I'm
was
going to do
so
and
much
build an
more
R.
successful for me. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think back and forth, definitely coming in, there's a lot of hedges in the beginning of both of them.
I wanted to
So
say that too.
go ahead, please.
No, no, no.
Oh, the exact same.
Exactly.
I already
Just
said it.
that
Yeah.
is like people often, especially on this, I would feel like this is like a consultative, I can't say that word, level maybe of register. And sometimes this isn't like it's not 100% prepared speech, you
Right.
know? So people sometimes take a little bit of time to arrive to the point. And we as interpreters can absolutely take that and use that to our advantage.
Mhm. I agree. I definitely think the switch was successful. I think
Yay.
your work tonight was the best that I've seen in a long time. Not
Thank
like,
you.
you know what I mean, but I
No, I
just
understand, and I
think it
felt
was
it too,
great.
so thank you.
I think the waiting and the R was great. The one poo poo I'm gonna put on myself
No.
is not having a like not doing the rehearsal, not doing the planning, only because it's been coming up in foundations and it's something that I really wanted to focus on. But without having that goal, it's really hard to do it because right, the
Can I
theme
just ask you to kind of maybe explain what that means to you? Like, what does that look like for you, not doing the planning or doing the planning?
I didn't want to compose as I was interpreting, and there would be hedges and then
Peeing,
hedges.
see,
I was peeing in my C, right? I gave myself space. I built an R. I thought I had my theme, my beacon, and then caught up. And there was sometimes where I
Mm,
predicted and I predicted correctly, but
yes.
the speaking was happening so slowly, and my process was like happening too quick that I at one point I did just say, Lori, just stop. So I
Yeah.
stopped and I let them go. And so because right, like I had no planning. There was no
Yeah.
intention to my production. It was all just like live time being composed. And I personally I want to utilize my time in not just creating an R, but also like planning my production and not just like the cultural mediations like but
Yeah.
in the whole scheme of like what's my closing statement, like I don't know. Like you
Right.
know. Mhm.
So I think what we're taking away from this is that you and I just need to interpret for New Yorkers until the end of time because we can't handle anyone that speaks at a slower pace
No.
than the pace that we normally do.
It's not going to work anymore. I live down south now. I was laughing at that one part when they were talking about false fall. That's what they call it. It's like a false
Oh,
fall. You get like a little taste of it and then you get summer for like another month down here. Yeah.
gosh.
At least that's in Georgia. I don't know.
I've heard
Uh,
that as well.
anything else about the interpreting before we move to the text?
Um,
See, we didn't want to do it, and I'm glad we did because a lot.
I was thinking that and I was so mad at you while I was doing it.
It's
I was like,
Chris. Always
dang
Chris.
it,
Always.
Chris.
I tried to, I don't know if you could see it, but at some point, um, I tried to change my focus into my fingertips because I'm like, why am I not being like as sharp and intentional? It's because I had no
Hmm.
P. And so
Mm.
I tried to incorporate it and I'm wondering if it showed in the sharpness, like when my
Do you
P
know
was
like
more prominent.
abouts when you did that? Was it like halfway through at the beginning or
Well,
I think
no,
I was
way,
so
way
hyper
towards the
focused on
end.
myself, I probably
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
able
that's
to.
fine. That's fine. It was probably right after my mom called and I was like, did we just lose our recording?
Guest speaker.
I can't see the computer,
Special
so I didn't
guest.
know if it ruined it. Anyway,
No, I just I think that this was successful. I'm appreciative that I'm glad that we switched. I think that
mhm,
it serves the
worked.
message better on both ends.
Mhm.
And I just want to say that I'm gonna myself a little bit. I was so excited about the R I had for the metaphor about people kind of like getting on the bus and just like hanging out in
Oh,
the
mhm.
doorway. I really saw that, and I had a moment where I was like, I set the door up, and I was like, be smart, set yourself up for success, be in the bus. And then I was like, oh, I got to move the door there, so I'm sitting in the bus, and I was I was really excited about how that just naturally happened. And the reason it naturally happened was because I allowed myself to wait until I saw the picture. So if I had just and went for it, I would have probably set the door up here and then I'm like, wait, I'm the bus driver now. Like, it just doesn't it doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Mhm. Interesting.
So
Interesting. Anything about the source text that you found triggering or informative or
um well, I had to look up what woo was. Guess I am not hip. Um and then yeah, it's so interesting. I think that I need to read this intuitive eating book. I think that more and more every time, and then I walk away from my computer and forget. But it's so true. Like there is such a cultural toxic culture surrounding fitness in the name of like you're helping yourself, like you're doing a good thing. I don't know if you've ever seen that meme where it's like when you work out and you sweat, that's your fat crying or something like that.
Oh
And
my
it's just
goodness.
like these are like, you go to Orange Theory, not to pick on, okay, I'm not going to say any names, but like you go to any gym, and it's like plastered on the wall. And I mean, I guess maybe for some people that works, and maybe they do have a good body image of themselves, but I just, for people that really struggle with that, and for people that even just, the body type they have is the body God gave them, and that's the body they have, and it's not going to change because that's just how they're built and designed, and it doesn't fit what society says it should be. And it's like you just basically told that person that they can never be happy.
Right. Right.
And that was really impactful for me. That was, and it made me like wonder like what myths I have bought into subconsciously. Scary stuff.
I was definitely I was definitely getting to like, can we talk about ableism? Like, when is it going to come up? Because right from the beginning with like love your body for what it could do,
Oh
I
yeah.
just instantly start going into ableism, right? And I tend to, I think, navigate through the world in a little stronger of a deaf lens, having
Hmm.
have grown up with deaf parents, and so that was the first thing, and it started to really kind of get me in a like a negative sort of way.
Interesting.
Like, at what point are we going to talk about ableism? Because you're gonna love your body for what it can do, and there's certainly plenty of people with depression that can't do,
Right.
or
Or
with
these invisible diseases, for
visible
sure.
diseases or real,
Physical
yeah, I didn't mean
challenges,
like
yeah.
those are not real,
No,
meaning
I
like,
understand what you're saying.
okay,
Like
like
visible,
amputees
visible,
or
obvious
right,
challenges.
right, right. Or other illnesses and diseases. And so I was getting kind of like, and then so I was
Huh.
really, really appreciative when that came up. Um, and also at that point, I'm like, I wonder how my biases would I have like skewed the goal here? You know what I
Mm,
mean? And my
yeah.
affect would have been a little bit too, too strong. But
Interesting.
also that whole part about checking out basically of the world, that 90% of people who disengage in certain activities, I know for sure why
Oh
after I
gosh.
I had my kids and I started packing on tons and tons of weight,
Same
um
fam.
I wouldn't go to old like haunts, because I
Mm,
didn't want to see, like, let the world see me in that kind of way. um you know
mm.
it, even like showing up in family photos, you know what I mean? Like, I
Oh,
would more apt to take the picture than ever be in the picture.
I would always
I
be like, can someone here, my child, come in front of me?
stand in front of
Put the
me,
kid in
right?
front of me. And then I'm
If
like,
I
oh
even
gosh, I'm my grandmother. you
if I'm
know?
even in the picture, or like I'd post something on Instagram or Facebook and my mom would send me like a comment like, "Oh, you look like you gained weight." And so I wouldn't even engage in any type of relationship, uh s-
Yeah.
give me an English word.
Not that though.
Stimulism is what I wanted to say.
Stimulate. Yeah, I understand what
You
you're
know what
saying.
I'm saying? It's late.
Anything that
Um,
involved interacting with other people,
right,
like in that way.
because of how my body had changed, and that was the
Yeah.
reason why. Like, I hadn't changed. If anything, I've gotten better. I've gotten
Yeah.
older. I've gotten smarter. I've gotten kids now. I'm in a
Right?
better place. But I was using size
Mm,
as my barrier
your
to,
metric. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, maintaining relationships in real life and online, and it's
That's
so
so
that was like
interesting. Yeah,
really
for sure. You're making me think now because it's funny because I think about my body when I was 20, right? Um, and like I did not appreciate it back then. uh, you know but I think about it then, and I've caught myself thinking like, oh, what an idiot. Like, if only you never know what you got till it's gone, right? Like,
sure.
and I was like, if only was as fat as when I thought I was fat. Like,
Right.
um and it's like still, but these are the thoughts that definitely, like, I'm sure every woman has ever had. And I've had friends that are like, okay, you can go ahead, wish for your 20-year-old body. You're wishing your children away
Mm.
because your 20-year-old body had not had your children. And honey, you can't. Have you ever seen that? There's like this funny post online where it's like, I'm trying to get back to my
Oh.
original weight, and then someone's like, congratulations, it's a boy, 6 pounds 9 ounces,
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
know. But it's like, I I can't. I don't want to go back to being 18. You know,
Yeah.
I like who I am now, and like I don't have I'd rather be who I am in this body than who I was in that body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that you're saying that, because if you had asked me like, did you not go out because of how you felt about your body, I would have been like, "Pfft, nah, whatever, whatever." But no, actually now I'm thinking and I'm like, I am 32 years old, and last year for the first time in my life I took my shirt off at the beach.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
and I mean, a lot of it probably had to do with how I was raised, like to be modest and stuff. But like, it's not even a modesty thing at this point, because look, you go down to the beach, there are plenty of other people to. No one's going to be looking at me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of other
There's
options to look
there's a
at.
lot of freedom in that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But like, you know what? I was like, you know what? I need to lose weight. I need to change this before people can see this, you know? And um you know what, I'm like, I have stretch marks, I have skin left over from having babies, and this is who I am. And you know what, it hasn't changed in 5 years, and I don't think it's going to change. So you know what, I am going to go swimming with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I would wear a shirt at the beach at all times. And that's
Yeah,
like, now I'm just like, and that's very freeing.
for sure. I think I mean, I've been doing the work for at least 2 years now, right? And I mean, just the other day I got asked to interpret a rock concert, and my first thought was I'm too big for that,
What?
like
Really?
cuz yeah, like I know it's like
Really?
still like I'm
Interesting.
still a barrier, you know,
That
and
thought never would have
yeah.
entered my mind.
I bring it into my work for sure. Am
Wow.
I think I would get it the other way for many years, like getting a job at a high school and looking too young and like
I had
how
that for sure.
that works. But on the other end too, like now I'm like an ageist to myself. I'm like fat phobic with myself and
Hmm.
how I think certain work should look. I remember
Interesting.
having a conversation with a interpreter and they were saying about how like casual signing and sloppy signing, on like larger people look worse. Not like
What?
worse meaning like they look extra sloppy and they look extra lazy.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's not something I ever think about. The only time, and we're going to get real here, ladies and possible gentlemen that are watching, the only time that I think about my size and how it affects me as an interpreter is when I rub in here, because I'm large. I have these, ladies, and it does affect how my space here, and so that's, but I'm used to it. So it's not something I think about often, but it definitely is a factor, But
Hmm.
that's the only time I think about my size in terms of interpreting. It's so interesting that you went there. Thank you for sharing that, being vulnerable
It's
in that.
I mean, and that comes up a lot too. I mean, I'm just doing a chorus line of the song "Tits and Ass," and my team was like, because they have had boobs their whole life. They were like, I can't like be on stage and do this. And I like,
Interesting.
as a girl, A cup team for so long,
Makeup team.
like I was more like team B cup my whole life, and that's
Mm, not
still
gonna tell you what team I'm on.
still too flat for most people, but way more comfortable with like being on stage and doing the kind of graphic movements that those song needs. Yeah. Interesting.
It is
See how
interesting.
it does play into our work for sure. It influences use of space. It influences how I even will choose work or not.
Interesting.
Because I don't feel like I look the right part. I mean, like I've interpreted
I don't like that.
I've interpreted a yoga class a few times. One like deafblind, which was super cool and fun. But I would almost feel like a fraud in a different. I don't know. Like I would feel like very judged
Interesting.
in like uh orange system.
Oh, Orange Theory. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, did you feel judged when you did yoga, or
Those were like different types
okay?
of. Yeah, they
Because I
weren't
was
like.
gonna say, I feel like there's not necessarily that much of a, like, you have to be this type of body to do yoga. I feel like there, but I mean, I know there is definitely, people definitely think that, but that particular vein of like fitness, I feel is a little bit more accepting
Hmm,
of all body types. So interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for listening. Any other last thoughts, comments, ideas, reflections, criticisms?
No criticisms ever.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I think that's it for me. How about you?
Yeah, I'm done. I feel like drained after
Same.
yeah. I feel like yeah, that's it. All right.
But thank you so much for pulling me into this tonight, even though I was like, no. I'm so
Mm,
glad we did it. I'm so glad we did it.
likewise.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm really hanging up now.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know if you were gonna stop recording or.
I can't. It's in the other room, so I'm just gonna
Oh,
really
okay.
hang up.
That's fine with me. Okay. Have a
All right.
good night. I'll talk
Good
to you
night.
later.